welcome, 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 everyone, and especially to you, Dr. Lorri. I'm glad to be back, and we're doing another video together and sharing some really good inspirational insights about God whispers and ego yells. I
Yes.
love that topic. And for the sake of anyone listening who has not met you before, how about a little bit of background, because it's quite massive, your background and the journey, of where you are here today.
I'll give a quick little bit. I know last time we did this as well, and it has been fascinating. And I will share that it's fascinating simply because for me, I started out I often say this, and I say it with humility and with pride. I am a little girl from a row house. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, and literally was raised in a row house. We came from minuscule means, I think is a fair way to say it. And through multiple things in my life, paths that I followed, determination, always feeling a little nudge from spirit, I decided at a very early age that I would pursue education, formally and informally, to ultimately bring me to where I am today. I did not know I would be in this space, but here I am. That formal education includes a Bachelor of Science in Athletic Training, a master's degree in physical therapy, and a doctoral degree in physical therapy. I also hold certificates as a natural nutritional consultant and a health and wellness coach. I own two businesses, Physical Therapy and Balance Centers and Dr. Lorri Health. And through Dr. Lorri Health, I do a lot of what we're doing now. Speaking, writing, also consult with people. Really the crux of that is, how do we get in touch with ourselves, with our mind, our body, and our spirits to continue to enhance who we are, and most greatly, why we are here, what we were born to do, and how can we make life on earth better.
Wow. Wow, this is awesome. And what I find especially pretty inspiring is all your background as a businesswoman. I own a business. I operate many facets of a business today. And yet, we are walking into this journey together at this phase of our life, because we've known each other for so many years. And to be able to say, wow, the power of women right now in a sacred way, and being open to these messages, that are starting to come through. And that's what we're going to talk about today, to help our listeners understand that those whispers that come through, how to discern, are they from higher power, God, source, our angelic beings, or I don't know, maybe the ego is saying, as people say, I think this is what I feel, I think this is what I know. And you and I both are having these profound experiences, almost by the day, of what is coming through.
So true. And on your point about being business women, the growth has been massive. I've had to make a lot of decisions that were my decisions, right? My mind, through research, through learning, whatever it may be. There were many people 20 plus years ago, before I started my business, that said, you should start a business. And my reply was, I don't know business. I know physical therapy or whatever. And I've mentioned this in the past. Now I know business. Lots of ups and downs through that, lots of learning experiences. And I will say that through that, for the last, my goodness, 20 years, when I was en route to make a new big decision, I would seek the assistance of two women that I know who are intuitives, and ask them questions and ask them to pull from spirit some guidance for me, so that it wasn't just me and my ego making those decisions, but also getting guidance from a much higher power, to keep me going. There are times, most people, I'm not sure what most people think. I think that we believe that people think you're in business. Oh my gosh, what a life you have. You own your business, you're making money hand and foot, what a great, you're free, all those things. And I know that you can concur with me that that's not true. I mean, this takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and ups and downs. And I always pray to get on the train in the morning, but you never know what roller coaster shows up. So we just go with that, right? And right before we started this, and I would like to share the very first reading that I had, just a blip of it, but as you were speaking and talking about us being business women and so on, I was looking at myself. Obviously, we're staring at ourselves right now, and I can see my mother. I can see my mother's smile, and my goodness, but I just felt her so deeply. I knew, and I know that she is here. There's a picture of she and I just behind me. And it was really quite amazing to look at my face and look at my smile. And I've seen it before, but what I received as I was picturing her, was a deep warmth in my body, really into my core, into my gut. And that would be one of the 7 ways, if you will, and there are many more, but one of the 7 ways that we are speaking of right now, that you can tell that you're getting a message from God or from spirit, versus your ego.
Wow, I love that. And this is the power of how the spirit is uniting and how it's working. And I had a premonition right before we were talking today as well, only it was interesting. My dad is coming through more lately than ever before. And that's what came through right beforehand. And when I was in 4th grade years ago, working at his meat business plant, we made sausages, all kinds of stuff. And the best thing he could ever do is send me back to where all the cayenne pepper is, where all the spices and herbs were. And my hands would go in there and I loved it. I'd feel the energy. Never did I think years and years later, my passion and connection and working with herbs was already connecting from back then. And who knows what other lifetimes, There are no accidents in our life down to the second of whatever we're experiencing, even those gentle whispers.
Amen.
I would love for you to share. Well, actually, let's read that. If you could read that little poem,
Yeah.
saying that you have, and then let's go into a few examples of experiences, and then let's talk about, what do we do? I could share with you what I do. You could share with me what you do before we start receiving some of these downloads.
Absolutely. So this is interesting. Judy and I were speaking yesterday, and one of the words that came to me was permission. And permission to us at that moment means that we are permitted to experience this. We are permitted to receive these messages. We do not have to believe that only someone else does this, that we have to go to our priest or to another person that's an intuitive or anybody else. This is a power that we have because we are all of spirit. And since we are of spirit, we can connect into spirit, and we have guides that are near us and they're waiting to hear from us. So in that, back to us being business women, I shared with Judy that when I heard that permission word, it felt to me that it could be very insightful for a lot of people to listen to 2 women in business who receive messages and want to share that and maybe spread that permission to other people. And so I was reading last night before I went to sleep, and this is the last piece of information that I read, and I just smiled and went to sleep and said, okay, do your work. The light worker affirmation. My work here is clear. no matter what job title I hold. I awaken consciousness in the world. I awaken compassion in the world. I awaken love in the world. And my work always begins with me. As I recognize and honor the divine source within me, those around me are inspired to do the same. This is my gift as a light worker.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I'm going to kind of piggyback on something there that you just read, and I'm going to read this as well. Oh gosh, and this the theme is knowing me, knowing our purpose, knowing our calling, connecting into that. And one of my most inspiring teachers has been Bob Proctor. And I want to read something that's in my latest book called Second Wind, A Change in Attitude, Your Link to a New Life. Anybody could find that on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. But I'm going to read something he wrote as well that kind of connects into what we're about to talk about here a little bit more. If I want to be free, I've got to be me. Not the me I think my wife thinks I should be. Not the me I think my kids think I should be. If I want to be free, I've got to be me. Not the me I think you think I should be. If I want to be free, I've got to be me, and I better know who me is. And this journey, of what you were just talking about, with talk about if you want to get to know yourself, own a business. Okay. And it will become your business to get to know yourself, that way, because everything is such a powerful mirror to us, on every imaginable level. So the idea with sharing this is helping others to be free to be themselves, even when the world may look at it, what we're doing is kind of quirky, right?
Sure.
We were kind of talking about that earlier as well.
Yeah, it's definitely, I agree that business will make you know yourself. Boy, it puts things right in your face. And if you continue to grow, again, you can spread that out to people around you and show just compassion and empathy and goodness, and show it to yourself and your staff and to your clients that walk through the door. I mean, it takes a lot to really work through that gut, because the gut feels like it gets punched often. And the more we know of ourselves, we can calm that gut pretty easily. We still get little blips. There's no doubt about it, because we are human beings, without a doubt, that just are full of spirit. So, on that, knowing yourself, I've shared in the past, I was born and raised Catholic, as you were, and I was taught very clearly that, hearing messages was not mine. If we needed to hear any messages, it would come from somebody who was a higher power. Typically in that place, it would be from the priest. And if we needed those messages at all, we were here just as souls, lowly souls, to just be obedient in many different ways. And I learned a lot from my roots in being Catholic, and, some of which truly have guided me in great ways, some of which I had to unwind to begin to know myself. And that has been a very, very powerful experience. And so two things. One, years ago, I read all of the Conversations with God books, Neil Donald Walsh. And, when I read the first one, I thought, oh my goodness, I am receiving permission to begin to know God differently, to look at God differently, to connect to God differently. And then I kept reading and I thought, this is life-changing. And one of the statements in those books is we can choose love or we can choose fear. And if we choose love, that's all there is. And I have used that in my life so many times. I've so many different experiences, and I've shared that with others. So that is very important, you know, to choose love, and you have to choose love for yourself first to get to know yourself, without a doubt. So in that, one of my very first experience with receiving a reading was external to me. A woman named Carol Obley lives in the Pittsburgh area, very well known as an intuitive. And we both rented some space in a building. This is 20 plus years ago, probably somewhere right around 2000, 2001. And a few people had recommended her to me. I got to know her. I appreciated her. But I kept thinking, I was told this is a sin. And how am I going to handle this? And is it really true? And, you know, all these things going on in my mind. And I thought, I need to do this. I'm feeling it strongly. So I sit down with her. And the first thing she comes in to the scenario with is, I'm seeing a jewelry box. It's a little silver jewelry box with a ballerina on top. It's playing music, and the ballerina is spinning in circles. Does this mean anything to you? And I thought I was going to fall off my chair. My sister had a music box to hit that description to a T, that was given to her by my cousins. And my sister had passed. So she had passed multiple years prior to that. And this was the first connection to her. And then she went on to say, I see a young woman bouncing a basketball. Does this make sense? My sister played basketball, and she just kind of kept going on from there. And she knew nothing about my past. I'd only met this woman within a very short time. We never spoke up to that date about my sister or anyone else that had passed. And immediately I thought, wow, there is something to this. And that was life-changing for me, Judy. It was inspiring. It gave me hope. It gave me hope that Darlene, my sister, was trying to connect with me. And it just opened up something in me that was just the beginning of a very, very vast openness that exists with me today.
Wow. And I bet it has not stopped. Okay. When you have these experiences, what I love about, let's make some distinctions between the whispers of God and the ego. For me, there's such a warmth and serenity. Oh, I mean, a deep serenity that floods every cell of my body and all of my fields. And there's a knowing, there's a very clear knowing when a message comes through, or when I hear the voice. And I've shared this a little bit maybe before. The first time I ever heard a voice, an angelic voice, it's a divine voice. I never knew you could. I never studied it. I wasn't anything I was aspiring to do. I feel like I was always connected in the spirit world, from a child. But when I heard that voice, oh my gosh, it's like nothing you'll hear on this earthly plane. But that feeling, because people will question, I've done that, off and on at times. I don't do it today now. It's very clear. This is a divine message. This is truth. I have that knowing. I have that clarity. It's so strong, and I can trust that. What has your experience been?
Yeah, warmth for sure. Excuse me. And I just shared that when I saw my mom in me. I felt that warmth into the gut for sure. Energy. Just there's a different type of energy that's also vibrational. So more recently, as I've tapped into this more, and again have given myself permission and asking, is this my ego? Is this my voice? Or is it God? Is it my guides? I have been given more and more messages that have said, this is beyond you, Lorri. This is your spirit, and we are connected with it. So for me, a few weeks ago, I was in a session with a sound therapy. It was my last session. And as soon as the music came on, and so basically you put the earphones on, and as soon as it came on, I found myself just, this was happening, and I was not doing it. My head was spinning. I could kind of feel my eyes spinning without them spinning fully in my head. And, the practitioner said, Lorri, what are you feeling? And I said, my head is going, I'm not controlling this. And that happened for a while. And at one point I had to put my head back just to rest. It was so powerful that I felt like I just needed to give it a break. And I rested for, I don't know, maybe a minute. And when I lifted again, immediately the spinning started occurring. And so we went with that through that time frame that I was with her. And just prior to that, a week or so prior, an acquaintance of mine, someone I did not know very well, but I did know, had passed unexpectedly. And it was very shocking to our whole community, a young woman. And as that was happening and I was spinning, I could see her lying in her coffin. And, I thought to myself, what is going on here? And we kept going with it. So Katie, the practitioner, at one point said, Lorri, are you seeing something? I must have been doing something with my eyes. And I said, yes, I am seeing this person lying in her casket. She said, okay, stay with that. Are you hearing anything? And I said, yes, let me tap in. And so what I heard was, I was not ready. I had more to do. So that would have been from that person that passed. And then I heard, keep going on your journey, keep going. You are respected and you are loved. And as I just took that deep breath, that is one of the other things that we can feel as these messages come through, where we literally have to stop and exhale as that energy has come into our bodies and then is releasing, and just allowing us to know that it's true. So warmth and energy and vibration and deep breaths, all of those. And since that session, I have noticed that if all I need to do is get still and say, okay, soul, okay, spirits, okay, God, what message do you have for me? And as long as I do that, I immediately have this little bit of a twirling, nothing crazy. It comes in instantaneously, and then I receive a message.
Wow. You mentioned be still. 2 days ago in my meditation, right at the end, I heard clearly, be still and know that I am. That, and so if we're so busy and so stressful, we're not going to always recognize those promptings. And we get over 1,000 a day, over 1,000 a day at least. But to be, come to that place of prayer, meditation, for me, I have my sacred space. But I want to qualify this at times. It can come out of nowhere. Okay, I might be in the line at a store. I might, one of my very strong life-changing events that happened where the spirit, just the divine voice of God came right through me, is when I was signing for another surgery years ago. And I heard the voice and it said, Judy, no more. I knew intuitively to come off all the meds I was addicted to. I knew I was not going to sign that piece of paper and commit to surgery that day. It changed me inside what this energy was. And that really is what started my path to open up. I don't want to say it was effortless. I was unshakable to the direction I was committed to, being pulled to. Something more was working here, far beyond my own ego, far beyond, whatever I could rationalize. And here's the thing. I don't know, Dr. Lorri, if you found this as well. The more these experiences happen, you start, the faith grows, the trust grows, the relationships in the spirit world get stronger and stronger. And I love the term you used yesterday, about more companionship and less competition. And the more we go this way, it has nothing to do with competition. I mean, competition, comparing ourselves with others, that's slow suicide. Okay.
Mhm.
Companionship. I love what you said about that.
Yeah, and again, that was a strong message. It was something originally that I had read, and then I sat with it. And the message behind it, it was something I believe I read in the news, like a news clip, something from Nice News, something that I get daily. And it was talking about women, specifically, who continue to rise and energetically are rising and are letting go of those chains of competition, the chains that may have been bestowed upon us by others, society, just quote unquote, a more manly world, a masculine, let me say masculine world that says you got to do whatever you need to do to rise to the top. And we see it in every facet of the world. And, the energy now is more of women and feminine energy coming together, like you and I are doing, to say, look, we have all these experiences. We have very rooted experiences in business. We both have been successful in that regard, and many other things when it comes to that, education and so on. And we also have these beautiful wings that allow us to just kind of open up and accept all of these other entities that are here to help us and guide us and help us to share it with others who maybe are struggling through some of the same questions. Literally, I was down, so my office is upstairs. I was downstairs, and one of my staff members, who is a friend, walked by and said, I really like the shirt you have on today. Normally we have our work shirts on. And I said, thank you. And she kept walking. I said, come back here. And I told her what we were doing. I told her what the message was today. It helps tremendously for other people. And it's amazing. It's amazing what that will do. And besides that, today, I can tell you in my business, 20 plus years ago when I started and I was teaching yoga and talking supplements and weight loss through supplements and talking acupuncture and different things, there literally were people in the medical field, physicians, that were calling me the voodoo chick. Who is the voodoo chick that entered town? And I will tell you humbly, 20 plus years later, there's no voodoo chick when they describe me anymore. It's Dr. Lorri, and Dr. Lorri, who happens to be me, has become very well known and very well respected space. I need to own that and realize that with that, I have great responsibility. And so I need to share one other experience I had with my great aunt, who her name was Sister Loretta Treziak. She was my mom's sister. She was a nun who literally was brought forth into being a nun from the time she was 13 years old. She was basically recruited. And we had been close all of our lives. I had been one doctor's appointment with her, and she said, I really wish I would have had a little bit more time before I became a nun. There were some things that I didn't get to do. And I was really grateful she shared that with me. It was something she didn't talk about. And then in 2013, actually on my birthday, my immediate aunt, Jean, had called me and said, Lorri, I'm sorry to tell you this today, but it appears that Sister Loretta is about to pass. She's in her last moments or days. And I know it's your birthday, but I want to tell you this in case you want to go. And it was my 48th birthday. And I said, of course, I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me that it's my birthday. And so I went to see her. She was 95 and really had been bedridden for months at that point. And we had a couple cool conversations just in the time that she was bedridden. But that particular day, I walked into the room, some family members were there, and she was lying there with her eyes closed. And so I just gently went up and she opened her eyes. And I said, do you know who I am? And she said, yes, you are Lorri. And from Loretta, she always said, Lori's my namesake. And so we had that connection. I said, yes, it's Lorri. And she took a breath and she said, Lorri, I have something to tell you. And I said, yes, sister, what is it? She said, Lorri, you have been chosen. You are an apostle.
Mm.
You have been chosen. And what you do brings people closer to Christ. It brings people closer to Jesus and that love. And so you need to continue doing what you are doing. Do you understand? Now, of course, I immediately am in tears and awestruck and, oh my goodness, what does this mean? And I said, yes, I understand. And I sat with her, and some of my other family members had gone. They decided to leave not long after that. And so I sat with her and just had my hand on her heart, and she had her eyes closed, and I was saying, it's okay. It's okay to leave. You've done what you've come to do. Thank you for your service, energetically helping her to exit. And did that for quite a while, just sat in silence. And she still had her eyes closed. And so it was time for me to leave. So I gently started standing, not to disturb her. And immediately her eyes opened very wide and said, you heard what I said. You promise me. And I said, I heard you and I promise.
Wow.
And Judy, the shock of that, the inspiration of that, the the responsibility, that's the word I was looking for. The responsibility in that message was so great that I had to continue to work on myself to say, okay, Lorri, you have been chosen. I'm not the only one. I want to say that. You have been chosen, Judy. There are many people that have been chosen or who have decided to come to Earth at this time to raise the vibrational level of love and peace and companionship, all those things to bridge the gap that has been on our planet for way too long. And so at that point, I had to continue to do that work inside to allow me to be who I was brought here to be.
Wow, Dr. Lorri, this is a perfect example of those whispers that come, and it's not from the ego. It's gentle, yet it's strong. It very healing, very humbling. It isn't oh my goodness, when the spirit just communicates through another human being to us, however that comes through, the heart opens up even more. And what you were saying with that, carrying that torch, it's a responsibility to walk in discernment, to walk in the wisdom. And for me, continuing to ask for that guidance, ask for that help, just like you and I did before we got on this video. We called in the angels, the spirits, the divine, the infinite God. We call it in. I don't want it to be of my mind, my head. I want it to be connected to something that is so divinely purposeful on this planet. And at this phase or place in our life, maybe a lot of other people are having these experiences. They want to be about their soul calling.
Yes.
It's not about stuff. It's not about things. It's not about nothing outside of us fulfills us and makes us happy, content, joyful, and free as much as the divine work for me. And it's not work, it has turned into such an amazing mission. And I see that, walk with you. It's very interesting because there's the yin and the yang. Okay, there's the businesswoman is not separate from the intuitive woman. The fear and the love. If I didn't have the fear, I wouldn't know how to transcend it into love. Those opposites that we have, and starting to unite that. But there comes a point, maybe I know you've already transcended with this too, where it doesn't matter when anyone else thinks or says about us. It doesn't matter if they love us, if they hate us. It'd be nice if they liked me, or loved me. But I have to feel that within myself, and with that higher power spirit. That is the strongest relationship, the strongest connection, the greatest love that can ever help, many other people as well. And what you were saying, how it came through your aunt, the Spirit of God spoke right through her, new to you. It could come through people. It could come through reading a book, a sentence. It could come from in the shower. It could come from maybe you read a sign of something while you were driving. It can drop in usually the most, like you just had shared, the unexpected ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully agree with that. And on that note, some people may know Lee Harris, who actually you introduced me to about 4 years ago. And I was just listening to something and reading something from him where he said he was on the train in London, the underground train, whatever they call it, the tube, I think. And when he received his first message, and he thought, what is this? And then if you know Lee Harris, he is kind of world renowned at this point as an intuitive and author and speaker and everything. And, those receiving messages that connect us through that very thin veil just allows us at any given time and at any given moment to kind of stop the ego. Again, being in business, there are things that come at you so quickly. And if you don't take that moment between stimulus and response, you kind of go down a rabbit hole that can be pretty shaking. I mean, it really, really will throw you. And so I still have those moments, I will admit. And that once I'm in the rabbit hole, I say, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't take my moment, and let me get quiet here to receive what I need to receive. And then I can go forward in my being and do what I need to do. And sometimes that, it is that combination of left brain and right brain. That is really what it is. Left brain being very business and right being very creative. And when you can mesh those, that's pretty powerful. It really can do some amazing things. And I did want to share that, as we're receiving these messages, when they are divine, they are positive. There's something you may hear that, no, you don't, that's not right. You're not thinking that correctly, but you're not going to get bashed. You're not going to, be told you're crazy or anything. You're receiving something positive. And so that is another way to know that it is the whisper of God and not our ego.
And for me, I'm constantly becoming aware to keep asking, and keep asking. What is it, that I want the help with? What is it that I want to know? And I got this idea from conversations with God. Donald Walsh initially wrote a letter to God. Okay, he hit a crossroad big time in his life, and he just wrote a letter to God. Well, I did that a week ago. I sat down and I wrote a letter to God. I want to know more about this. I want to know, I was in a place like, really? okay, this is going on. Okay. It was amazing. I wrote this letter, poured my soul out as if this was, my best friend, my buddy, like, hey, come on, what is this? And I received information and I had a peace overwhelm me like never before. And that was such a powerful exercise that I would invite anybody to do and share.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, let's go into the 7 strategies to decipher God's messages with confidence. If we could
Yeah.
just touch on some of those, Lorri, Dr. Lorri.
Yeah. And just to list them first, because we have been kind of inserting these as we go.
Mm,
Again, that warmth,
yeah.
some type of energy you can feel specifically, maybe in the gut, maybe somewhere else, maybe it's in your neck, whatever that may be, but you're feeling some type of energy. And then there's the vibrational energy. So, when I say specific in the gut, you kind of feel a combo of warmth and maybe some other feelings. And then vibrational may be kind of all over your body. And I've been experiencing that more and
Mhm.
more into my arms and my hands and different things. That exhale, that deep breath that says, okay, I've received this and now I can move forward with it. The positive messaging, very, very important to know. Swirling can be one, you're just kind of, wow, what am I on? Am I on a ride here? But it doesn't throw you off. It's not a nauseating
Mhm.
thing. It's just kind of a swirling. And openness, we talked about that where our wings are opening to receive. And when you open like that, you're receiving deep divine love and expansion and a peace that you shared, that you felt after writing that letter, or maybe while you were writing it. So those are kind of the things we're touching upon. And, there may be more that you want to insert in there, but I think the biggie is openness, just trying to crack the shell a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more and see what comes through.
I love that. I I can tell something more recently. It's almost like my brain is getting rewired.
Hmm.
It's feeling different. Either that or I'm just becoming more aware of it. Um,
Yeah.
but I totally agree with a lot of what you're sharing. Some people receive it with their eyes closed. Some people receive it with their eyes open. That's a common question. It sometimes the voice will shift. Sometimes it will stay the same. Everyone has their own experience, but everybody can be open to receiving higher intelligent information. And I truly believe this is the time to absolutely strengthen your faith wings. Okay. And go direct, get information direct as much as possible. And you might be guided to go see this person, that person, this situation, go to nature, whatever it will be. That's fine and good. Trust those intuitions. Trust it 1,000%. And the more unpopular it is, probably the more right on it is.
Yeah.
The more insane it could feel, the
Yeah.
better it is. Okay. You start to get used to that,
Yeah,
anyway.
I agree. I've been gifted and I've done a lot of work around this when I was becoming a coach. So gifted with learning to ask questions and how to ask questions. So when somebody may have not so positive thing to say to me, which honestly does not happen often, but if they are unsure, let's say that, or maybe saying something that doesn't feel like we're being cohesive, I will simply ask, what is it that you want to know from me? What is it that's making you kind of come at me a bit? And if that happens to you, what you don't want to do is to go right back. So when someone says something, you don't want to say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. That immediately you're going to cause a gap. And we always want to fill that gap. We want to transform that gap. And by asking questions, what is it that you need or want or you're feeling, you actually invite that person into your space. So it's kind of a soul to soul talk at that point, instead of an ego to ego. And there will be times when someone else's ego will continue to talk to you and your soul, and you just will never understand each other. And that's okay to then just walk away or end or whatever you need to do. So realize that in that space, take a moment for yourself. Is your ego present with theirs? Have you taken your moment to get into your soul? Do they have the ability to get into theirs so that you can connect and basically reduce that divide?
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it can really, I've used that again in my business with employees, with clients. And at those moments, believe me, if I know I'm going into a situation where I have to have a conversation, I am asking for guidance as to what questions need to be asked, and even guidance as to what are they feeling. And it really has created bridges that have been very powerful.
Mhm. This is great. I love it. Any additional strategies you can think of we haven't quite mentioned? It looks like we covered an awful lot.
Yeah, we did. I think I said this at the beginning, so I think it's important to repeat. We
Mhm.
all are spirit.
Mm.
Remember, we came from spirit and we entered a body, when we were born. And when we're born, initially we may all have that connection. It may be a little stronger than maybe people surrounding us, feel comfortable with. And so society and different types of religion and other constructs, I'm not singling anything out, but life will tell us to shut that down. And we need to believe that and know that we are of spirit. And so we do have that connection, no matter what we've been taught. And if you have questions in that, you can, again, connect yourself or go to maybe some of the people that shared those constructs with you and ask them why. Last week I was very quiet. Actually, I think it was earlier this week, and I really connected and this was last week, with my mother and my grandmother, and two women who had profound effects on me in my life that really helped me to grow. By what they taught me, but also because of some of our experiences that maybe weren't that great. And, as I was sitting with them and asking them questions, it really came to me. They shared that there were things in them that they had to shut off. And that ended up, kind of, squashing their spirit a little bit, if you will. And, what they also shared was, Lorri, we saw it in you and we got out of your way. And my mom especially did that. My grandma at times not as easily, but we also had some great conversations. And, so, ancestrally, we bring things and we carry things along our path as well that we need to heal. And if those people are no longer with us in body, but are in spirit, sit quietly, ask them some questions and see what comes through. And you may find that some of the things even that they taught you were only because someone taught them. And they never got to that point in life where they could flip that switch.
I like that. I like that a lot. Um, I'll mention at this point, if anybody's interested, my first book I wrote, She Thought She Could, She Did. And I have a section in there called The Voice. And that's when I started hearing the voice and getting my voice back. And what I'm hearing with you too, and these other women and people in our lives, how powerful that communication is, how powerful the voice of releasing the spirit that is within us, the voice of truth, the voice of divine will, that will that is inside of us that's connected to all of our greatest good. So I I mean, in conclusion here, anything else you'd like to share? This has just been so fascinating. I love it. And I'm
It
sure a lot of
really,
people listening will just like, wow, I hope you want more of this because there's going to be more of this coming.
we definitely have more coming, and it's a very powerful experience for me. It is something that I've been asking for. I've been asking for companionship, and honestly, I did not ask Judy straight out. She asked me. So I was connecting in with my spirits and saying, and my guides and God and everyone else, like we often say to all the angels and saints, the saints with and without names, whoever you are, I
Mhm.
call you forth because I feel this and I know that this journey is to open up wider and to be more encompassing. And I put that out there the last few months, and Judy actually reached out to me to do our first video or first Zoom podcasts, a few weeks ago, in connecting to our inner child. And, so one of the other phrases I use often, and I can't remember if it's from Neil Donald Walsh or where this came from, but it's to our highest and best. And sometimes I will sign off an email with that, or a text, or a conversation with someone who is really struggling with a situation or a decision or whatever it may be. And when I know I just need to say to them, I wish for your highest and best. And when I say that, I'm opening up for my guides and my spirits and God and everybody else to touch upon me and them and whoever needs it, to show us the highest and best. Because honestly, as human beings, in our minds and in our ego, we don't always know. And we do need help with that.
I love that. That is really just a great ending to this.
Yes.
Oh gosh, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. And I look forward to doing sharing some more videos with you and being able to reach out and help as many people as possible and inspiring all of you to be open and receive in it could come in most unexpected ways, but connect, start praying, start meditating, being in nature more. And I like this saying, faster the physical, slower the spirit speaks. Slower the physical, faster the spirit speaks. And may you receive those messages real soon.
Amen.
Thank
And to
you.
our highest and best. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.